major speaker of the afternoon is Matt Vercoe. Matt's with Metal Spray Suppliers, and Matt's background is in mechanical engineering. He's worked in sawmills, marine sector, pulp and paper industry, agricultural sectors in the South Island of New Zealand before he moved here to Auckland just over 7 years ago to work with Jack in the Metal Spray Suppliers. During his time here, he's been to Australia and Singapore for training and get a number of qualifications in the industrial coatings industry, including his NACE level 2 about 5 years ago, and so at the moment he currently works as technical sales manager, coatings consultant and project manager for Metal Spray Suppliers across many industries in New Zealand, and he's going to talk about ensuring success with Metal Spray Suppliers. So over to you now.
Thanks everyone for showing up today. Welcome to the least academic talk that you're going to hear today. There's no PhD or anything after my name. What I'm sharing is going to be mostly from experience that we've had personally at Metal Spray Suppliers. So I guess we'll get on with it. Fantastic.
Would you do that?
Here we go. So what we're going to cover today is going to be a basic introduction to metal spray, a little bit about the coating, coating structure and bits and pieces. Here we go. To seal or not to seal and why that's even a question. There's a lot of mystical bits about the metal spray, if you like, that people don't really understand. What failures look like. I mean, I'm pretty confident everybody's seen a failure or two here and there in their history. What success looks like, because I couldn't tell a story about how it fails without showing me how it works. And something that I'm really passionate about at the moment is raising the level of specifications that we're supplying to the contractors, just to try and help bring the level up so that they've got something substantial to work with. So metal spray was invented by a man called Max Schroep in around about 1910, 1909. It was his first patent on it in Germany. His invention was based on the observation of his children playing in the garden with a flowbit gun, shooting little lead pellets, and they would stick to the wall. And over time, with the kids shooting at each other, they'd develop a conglomerate resembling a coating, and he got an idea from there and moved into the metal spray. Obviously, the safety standards have come a little bit from where they were. So this is the flowbit gun that his children were playing with, and it's responsible for metal spray as we know it. So the coating structure. Basically, there's a stock material, whether it be wire or powder. For the zinc and aluminium, it's typically a wire. It's molten either through a flame or through an arc process, and then compressed air atomises that melted wire and blows it at the job so that we create a coating. So here's just a SEM micrograph of a copper aluminium coating. So it's pretty highly magnified in there, and it doesn't make much sense to us to look at. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that later. But the coating is blown here, it's arced inside this nozzle, and then the compressed air comes behind it to atomise it, and we have all of these little particles. They all develop a small layer of oxide around the outside because they're using compressed air to blow them into the job, and then they go splat on the job. Literally, they call it splatology. There's a university terminology. So it just makes millions and millions of these little flattened pancakes that stack upon each other. Now, some of the particles are bigger than others and stay well moulded, and some of the particles aren't so big. So we get unmelted particles in the coating, and we get porosity in the coating. When it comes to anodic protection, the unmelted particles aren't really too much of an issue. We've got full metallic contact, so you're still going to have an anode within that coating from that particle. But the porosity can move against us or for us, depending on which situation we have. Generally, we want to seal it to prevent premature activation of the coating, if you like, but it's not necessarily something we have to do. So to seal or not to seal, and why is that even a question? As I've just explained, we get porosity within our coating. the standard rule of thumb is to apply a sealer directly over your metal spray to fill this porosity, which minimises the amount of air that can get to the surface of our coating and activate the zinc. If we leave it for a little bit, the zinc will activate itself, or activates anyway, and will grow corrosion products, which are oxides, which will block the pores, and then you've sealed your coating anyway, so it's a self-sealing coating. A lot of the reason, when would you not seal? So if we're going to immersed situations, we've learned over trial and error that if we apply aluminium and then put a sealer over top of it, that's not a very soft sealer, that we can run into troubles with blistering on the coating and accelerated corrosion in the blistered areas. So to avoid that, we either put a little bit more aluminium on and omit the sealer completely, or we seal with something soft like silicon, and silicon really has been the only one that's proven to work. Now that lets any hydrogen gas or anything that's building up inside the coating, because the water always finds its way into the pores. The salt water creates hydrogen when it reacts with the aluminium, and that'll pop the bubbles off and cause the blisters. If we're using silicon sealer, it lets the bubbles of hydrogen out without blistering, so it seems to be a good way to go about it. The main reason we use it on the aluminium is purely for the client's or the end user's confidence, if you like. When you spray aluminium and it starts to activate a bit slower than zinc, so you get the first sign of corrosion products, which would be like a tea-coloured staining on the coating. Everyone sees that as rust and starts to panic, but it is just the aluminium activating. So once it's activated, that tea staining will stabilise and won't get any further. But explaining that to every end user is not all that easy. Which sealer? So I've got a bit ahead of myself with using the silicon on aluminium under submersion situations. Mostly on jobs out and about on bridges and bits and pieces, people like to use the vinyl sealers because they're nice and easy to apply, they're pretty cheap, they're good sealer, they dry quickly, but specifically underwater use silicon or no sealer. Penetration and pigmentation. So this is the wrong picture, it's the other speech, but you can see here the sealer is sitting very much on top of the coating and it's not penetrating into the pores. This is showing the sealer penetrating in. Ideally we'd like to see it right to the substrate, but if we don't get penetration into the coating like that, we are trapping here in the coating and it's not ideal. So we must thin any sealers that we're going to put on there, basically to the maximum that manufacturers will let us thin it, and then apply more than one coat. So if you're using, say, a 40% volume solid vinyl and you thin it 30%, we're down to a 30% volume solid coating. Obviously 60% of that's going to evaporate off, so you'd expect at least 3 coats of thin sealer to fully seal that coating. The pigmentation can be an issue because the pigments in paints, a lot of paints are particles, and if the particle is bigger than the porosity in our coating, it's going to act like a plug and prevent the sealer from penetrating. So ideally we'd suggest to use a very slow drying non-pigmented sealer, which typically they're expensive and nobody wants to wait around for them to dry, hence the vinyls. So by using the thinning, we can help get it in there quickly. And also it can help the thinning can help avoid bubbles in the sealer after. I'll cover that a bit more later. So old versus new, roller became the spray gun. Back in the good old bad days when everything was applied with a roller or a brush, we were effectively forcing the sealer into the coating, which was fantastic because it helped minimise the need for the thinning of the paints, and we were getting good penetration still. But now everything's applied very quickly with a gun, so we're relying on capillary action of the paints to soak in to the metal spray. What failure looks like. So we've all seen failures. This one here, thanks Willie, is aluminium. I believe it's on a oil rig, yes?
Yeah, just off Timor.
Yep.
After about 4 years.
Yep. So this is one of the lessons that we learned about sealing aluminium and why we should or shouldn't do it. So they put an epoxy sealer onto an aluminium coating, and you can see here bubbles fizzing up where the aluminium underneath the epoxy has been activated, and you don't get much of a worse corrosion environment than that. But you can see the coating's kind of intact up here, but around here it's just all been spent because the coating that's been exposed is corroding, trying to protect an area larger than what the coating is covering. It's an anode. So the failures happen pretty quick like that. Now I believe they use aluminium without sealer in those situations and they don't suffer the same troubles. Delamination. This is a pretty close-up photo. I'm just trying to find examples of where I've seen it. This is due to, 9 times out of 10 is due to lack of profile. So it's pretty important to measure the profile of your blast. A lot of guys don't have a profile gauge, which is kind of surprising because it's really reliable for your paint as well. You can see where the edges are just picking up here. And they've been feathering that. They're trying to recoat a weld joint. So they're feathering the old coating out to put some more metal spray on the weld. And it started picking up when they were blasting it. And really, it should be extremely hard to blast zinc off. It should be well and truly on there. So that measured at about 25 to 35 microns when I was checking it out of surface profile. ASNZ 2312 says we need a minimum of 50 before we can continue with the job. So it's a lesson in why we need to check our profile and not just trust how it feels with your thumb.
Can I make a comment before you go on?
Yes.
On profile. One of the big things, particularly with welds and cut edges, as you know, is the surface hardening.
Yes.
And so often the profile that you might get elsewhere on the steel member is not the same over those hardened areas, and that's often where we see this delamination problem. So very important to grind that hardened steel off or use a harder abrasive.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. And that's particularly noticeable on the plasma cut surfaces. They get a really hard edge on them. Something else that could cause delamination is contamination of the surface. So if somebody's got it in their shop and they're using an old crane that's dripping oil around, unless you've got good guys that are willing to stop and solvent clean the area that's got the drip of oil, you're asking for somewhere for it to start. Solvent entrapment and moisture entrapment. So a little bit about why we were sealing the coating before and why we were thinning the paints as well. This is a job that was done. I won't talk about the job. You can see the bubbles in the paint here. It looks to be probably solvent entrapment or moisture entrapment in the job. One of the things to watch with metal spray is that after you put the metal spray on, if you leave it overnight and come back to put the sealer on in the morning, there's more than a good chance that the whole structure has gone below the dew point overnight and there's moisture then trapped in your coating. So you're relying on the penetration of the paint to push that moisture out, or you're trapping it in. It's kind of hard to measure whether it is particularly dry or not before you start. I mean, warming it or keeping it warm overnight is ideal if you're going to seal it in the morning, but really you should spray some and then seal it straight away, typically within 4 hours. There could also be bubbles in the coating. So if you haven't thinned your sealer, the air trying to escape is coming through a thick viscous paint, which then traps it as a bubble rather than just popping. If it's nice and thin, the bubbles will readily pop and they won't stay bubbles. You can see here that there's an activation of the zinc underneath the paint coating. So there's moisture has got through maybe some pinholes there that the bubbles left behind and activated that zinc underneath your paint, which is then creating this white corrosion product, which is blistering your paint. And obviously spending the zinc in that area rather than over a general area. So you're going to end up with accelerated corrosion in that area. Insufficient paint to cover the metal spray peaks. So this is another SEM. You can see that we have the surface profile after we've sprayed. Really, we need to be covering those highest peaks with a minimum to create a barrier. So if they say 40 microns of paint, you want 40 microns over that, not 40 microns over the average of it. You can see here how it looks, and a little bit in the one before, with the white spots coming through in areas. I mean, that's a big activation. But you can see the white spots coming through prematurely. So it's nice new paint, and there's corrosion products on top, and that's a little bit concerning for people. So in this situation, there just simply wasn't enough paint to cover that zinc, so we're getting the peaks of it activating first, and if we left that for a bit longer, it would start to look like a little volcanic pimple, if you like, of the zinc activating and the coating peeling off around it.
Hey Matt, can you just talk a bit about that definition of a rogue peak? Like we get specs coming through all the time, and it's very interpretable.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the rogue peak, I can't really give you a definition of it. I mean, we can say that it's a peak that's larger than the average peak.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to use a term like sanding the profile to a specific surface profile of say 50 or 75 microns. So if we were putting 75 microns of paint over it, obviously you need a surface profile that's pretty smooth so that you're getting a good continuous coating over the top of the peaks. The denibbing and rogue peaks have been used in some of the standards, so it gets used by everybody, but it's not clear enough for me. I think that sanding it is a better way to put it, so that we've got a clearly defined value that we can meet before we apply a paint on top.
And the surface roughness is very much dependent on the machine you use, how you set it up, and there's a lot of other variables. You can get surfaces without rogue peaks if you know what you're doing.
That's correct. That's correct. So it is down to machine maintenance, machine settings. Typically, if you've got a machine that goes really, really fast, you're going to have a more coarse coating than the slower machines. That's just a fact of life. There's a ratio, if you like, of air to wire. So if we're melting wire at 70 kgs an hour and we've got 110 CFM of air to atomise that molten wire and propel it at the job, those particles are going to be larger than if you're melting 30 kgs an hour and using the 100 CFM to atomise it and propel it at the job. The wearing tips and wearing air caps and so on create variance in this as well. So you're relying on the operator to pay attention to what he's doing and make adjustments or change the parts if the surface becomes too rough. Successful application, so I'm not going to get anywhere near my half an hour.
There's lots of other things we can talk about. Keep going.
So this is the Taupo Arterial Bridge. It was done by the guys at Napier Sandblasting. It's one of the longest ladder bridges in the Southern Hemisphere. I think it was the longest at the time. I'm not sure whether it still is. There's 250 microns of pure aluminium has been applied on there with a sealer. One of the main reasons, I mean, in the atmosphere, the sealer seems to work all right on the aluminium. It's under submerged situations that we have water penetrating through. So this seems to be working very well in a sulphuric environment, which is why we chose the aluminium. It's got about 11 tonnes of aluminium went onto that bridge, which is also one of the largest aluminium jobs done in the Southern Hemisphere. Done in 2008, and you can hop out of your car and have a look at it now, and it looks pretty well like the day it was done. It's a pretty nice job.
I think it was 55,000 square metres, but I could be wrong.
That's a lot of square metres. That sounds a lot. So this is some cryogenic vessels for Air Liquide. They were going out, they run their deck cargo between here and Australia. They were sending liquid nitrogen in them, or liquid argon as well. You can see the corrosion happening around here. Now a lot of that is because the way they're handled on the wharf, there's mechanical damage. They bang into each other. It's a pretty harsh environment to try and keep it. So that was a year after it had been painted, and they were repainting them every year. Being a cryogenic vessel, that under quite a bit of pressure, they've got stringent guidelines that they have to follow for wall thickness and wall loss. So we helped them out with a zinc aluminium coating of about 100 microns. You can see here it's being sealed, and then a penetrating epoxy sealer, an epoxy intermediate, and a urethane on top. And 7 years later, I can't say they look like that, but there's no corrosion showing on these things, even the ones that have got big dents from being clonked together. Gas tanks in New Caledonia. Got 150 microns of zinc. I believe that was applied with flame spray, so it would have taken quite a bit of time to get that on there. 50 to 75 microns of vinyl sealer on that. They do the sealer every 10 years or so. So they do maintain this coating, but 30 years on and there's still no sign of corrosion on these products.
How did they go through the cyclone, do you know? Have you had any reports?
Not on top, sorry?
The cyclone has just gone through New Caledonia.
No, I think it's
It's a good test for their abrasion resistance.
I would say so.
None of them have turned up in Auckland yet. So the mobile gas taxis are actually situated fairly close to the gas fuse that we just saw before. 100 microns of zinc plus epoxy sealer and an epoxy primer to 75 microns plus 150 of epoxy on top. So you can see, and then urethane as well. You can see that's a reasonably thin coating of metal spray and then a lot of paint on top. So that's a pretty good coating. Sometimes more metal spray isn't better for you. If you want to put the paint on top, if you put 100 microns of metal spray, in most situations that's going to get you a really good life expectancy out of it. Going to 150 or 200 microns is just going to allow us a bit more of an option or an opportunity to have air trapped in that coating and run into issues with it. More isn't always better. Writing a good metal spray specification, in my opinion. So, looking at some of the specifications I've seen around, there's not too much information for the contractors to follow. Everybody says apply it to ASNZ 2312 or the NZTA Bridge Coatings Design Guide. That's reasonably ambiguous. I don't know many contractors. The good ones certainly have a copy of that standard and they read it and follow it. A good majority of the contractors just don't have it. We've all met some of those contractors. You probably can't read this very well, but these guys are spraying with all the safety gear in front of thinnest tanks, the thinnest drums. So how they didn't end up with a little whoopsie, I don't know. This particular one here, you can see again they're using their safety jandals and some nice overalls there. They had to move the pigs on before they could start the machine up because it frightens the pigs. So setting the standards.